Okay.
Mayor, I do. I'd like to approach the council, if I may. Be at the last meeting. So I'd like to share with you some information and give you the same respect that you afforded me when I could not be here at the last council meeting. Sorry, I'm really upset about this, so if you'll just bear with me, I'll get through it. I was amazed and disappointed that some of my leaders and fellow council members acted in such an inappropriate manner concerning another human being and fellow council member. This is a perfect example of what happens when power and control and passive-aggressive actions occur, which is a common mistake made by people when you give them a little power. I was told by the lead person, Chris Moulton, of the audit committee, who was not at the last council meeting, that 6 of you had a meeting and handled concerns with the auditors. Keep in mind that when the auditors found an anomaly with how a bill was treated with a person connected with the city, it was requested that there be a solution to the finding. And I immediately resigned from the audit committee with a letter of resignation and information concerning any questions regarding my debt. A law was not broken here, but they simply recognized that there should be a policy in place to correct the situation. But somehow, most of you blew this into an opportunity to try and ruin a business and not try to help business to stay alive. You took an opportunity and thwarted every effort to help someone you all personally knew and tried to destroy them instead. I have owned and operated the business at the airport for over 15 years, and I am struggling with a bill that I owe the city of Valdez, not you personally. I have been here before with the same issue after September 11th occurred. I was in arrears over $18,000, and it took me a few years to pay it off, and I did so with interest. The city made a far better return on local money than our permanent fund has been doing for years. I wasn't able to keep up with the contract that I made with the city and have only been paying what I could when I could, including interest, which is over 10%. However, I had been paying on this debt for some time now besides the $8,000 payment that was made recently. This is due to the fact that the winter was deadly, catering is down because we can't compete with outside businesses any longer. It was not mentioned that other payments had been made during the last 4 months, besides that $8,000, nor the fact that you received a letter from me stating when this bill would be paid, and you all received a letter. I said that it would be paid by the year's end, if not by the end of the summer. Do any of you recall that letter, April 4th? Why didn't anyone bring that up in this meeting, if you recalled it? Let me finish, and then you can have your piece. Did any of you at any time come to me and offer help or moral support? No, unfortunately, but it's apparent that it was more important to hang my personal business out for everyone to see. I take responsibility for all my debts, but eventually it all gets paid. And I always pay more and tell people how much I appreciate their patience, which I sincerely do, and how very sorry that I've put them in this position. Councilwoman Dorothy Moore, you were on the audit committee. You showed such passive-aggressive behavior in trying to blame someone else as being the reason you brought up the entire situation. With all due respect, stand up and take responsibility for your personal need to expose this. The only people who knew about this were the auditors, the audit committee, the finance department, the city manager, and the mayor. Did it really need to go any further? From what Chris Moulton said, the issue was already resolved. It didn't need to go further. I don't know, you guys tell me about that. Jeremy, you were the most amazing of them all. You too are on the audit committee. Here you are a newly elected councilman, business owner, and a competitor of mine. I've supported you in your business by not only being a customer, but by lending you product on nearly a weekly basis since you opened your business. Yet you've not paid me even for the last couple of borrowed items. And helping you whenever you needed something. I was always there for you and supporting you. What kind of message are you sending to the public when you want nothing more than to evict me and not allow me to make a profit? Isn't this a serious conflict of interest, you being a competitor? You being on the audit committee is very disturbing to me, and it should be to everyone else, as you have publicly brought my situation to a personal level by wanting me to be evicted and not allow me to make a profit. It took the city attorney to make you see if you evict me, the loss would be grave. The city will lose over $21,000 annually in income, and no one will be able to have a business at the airport, plus the 35% of the outstanding debt, which you'd have to give up. Do the math. What's in the best interest of the city? That's up for you guys to decide. I don't know. You appear to be on the council for personal gain and not the welfare of the city. I personally watched the city manager set you up to change your vote on the property tax, and it only took a minute to convince you. You were very easy prey on that one, Jeremy. Mike, I don't appreciate you not beating around the bush any longer and bringing my name forward. I only wish that you would allow people to feel comfortable to say what is on their mind with ease and not expect you to be visibly uncomfortable with them in the doing. I would like to have respect for you, but unfortunately I'm having a very difficult time. Councilwoman Donna Shantz, she's not here tonight, but I want to acknowledge and thank her for trying to keep this whole situation on a level of professionalism and focusing on the process, not allowing it to get personal. Mayor Cobb, you withheld any negative comments, which I'm greatly appreciated for. I appreciate that very much. John Hosey, I've appreciated your work ethic and supported you at every level with many others when many others have not, and always told you that I would have your back. You have been a diligent, hardworking, smart, and dedicated man in your profession. But in the process, you have sacrificed a great deal by working 70-plus hours a week. For the most part, you have done an exceptional job. However, you haven't been forthcoming. When I sent you an email prior to this meeting indicating that I wasn't able to make it, and that if anyone had any questions concerning my situation, to please let them know that I have been paying on this bill for some time and to please call me if they have any questions. John, you made it look like I had made only one payment. This shows me that you are utilizing tactics that are only politically motivated. I have spoken to some of your employees who have indicated to me their fear of being fired if they were to say what I'm about to reveal, and that is, they are not compensated fairly. When I requested information concerning wages, department heads and lead positions, you thwarted every effort with excuses by putting me off. I'm still awaiting my request to be handled. I wanted to keep this low key, but you forced me to bring it to the public's attention, so I'll be filing with the clerk's office for this request. At this point, I'm very disappointed and think perhaps maybe it's in the best interest of the city for you to look elsewhere for employment. And that's how I personally feel.
I'm going to remind you, regardless whether you're a councilwoman or anybody from the public, you cannot personally attack individual members on the council or the city administration. It's in the policies. And if you have a general statements that you're making, please do. Just a clarification, most of the council had no knowledge about the previous payment made, what the situation was, until it was brought to the city council, and the city council was asked to write off those debts over $500.
Mr. Mayor, I'm not disputing anything here other than the actions of my fellow council members. Well, that's it. And that's all I had to say. I wanted it to be public.
Well, it's certainly, Mr. Moulton.
I'll clarify, when I had talked to Karen saying that it had been, taken care of isn't the term I'd use, but I was equally as confused when I came back from vacation and found out that this had taken place in a meeting, because the last meeting, the day I left, was that it would all be handled internally, and that we would try to solve this issue and write a policy so this wouldn't happen again, or we'd at least have a definite path to take. So I was a bit shocked when I heard this happen and a bit confused that we do have two other people from the audit committee. We had us, we had the auditors, finance director, the city controller, city manager, all sitting there. I think I was probably the most uneasy with keeping it between all of us. And then it came up as an agenda item to write off. And it had never come up before to write off.
It's really important to clarify here, keeping it internally does not mean keeping it confidential. None of us ever thought it was
I'm not saying confidential, but we had no opportunity as the audit committee to even work on this before it came up, and it didn't come up at any other write-offs prior to this. All of a sudden it jumps up on the last one. That surprised me a bit.
All I'm saying is that the reason this came forward was because the auditors brought it forward. That's the reason it came forward. The auditors decided, they did not think it was serious enough to put in the findings. The auditors, as the audit committee, if they wanted to just handle it internally. Internally just means within the city. It doesn't mean it's not going to come up. The details aren't going to come up. In fact, the details have to come up. We have to explain it to
I know.
council.
I asked about this in April.
So
Barely anything was done. I just don't know why now it has to come up in a write-off over 500 when it has not come on any other write-offs over 500.
because the audit was
We
the audit
decided to
came,
write it off.
because we were under a date to have the audit approved. It came up as part of the audit approval. It was the night the audit was approved is the night this came up.
That it had to go on the agenda on that meeting for a write-off. Did it have to come up on that meeting as a write-off?
It did not come up on the right.
not have to.
It did not come up on the write-off agenda item. It came up on the agenda item to approve the audit, and it was Councilwoman Shantz that brought it up. She's the one when we came up to approve the audit. She said, "Hey, wait a minute. The last time we were briefed on this, there was a finding for related parties."
I'm talking about the write-off list that this was on.
I know. What I'm saying is the discussion did not occur on that item. The discussion occurred on the item for the audit, and it was as a result of Councilwoman Shantz specifically asking the audit committee what happened with this related party finding.
The discussion happened.
so-
I'm wondering why it actually came up. I listened to it. It came up on both items.
It did, but at first, that's because it was already put on the floor as a result of the audit, and there was a question specifically asked of the audit committee, what happened with this finding?
Okay.
So we had to discuss it then.
I understand that. I guess you still haven't answered the question of why it came up on this write-off list. It had never come up on a prior write-off list.
Because we were under an agreement, and as long as there's lots of people that owe the city money, they are not on a write-up list. Because sometimes we give them notices or multiple notices. You know, when we finally reaches a point where we consider the debt as not collectible, then it goes to a write-off.
So
We
when
did
was
not
that?
consider this debt uncollectible prior to this because we had an agreement, and payments were being made, and we were trying to follow that contract. When the contract was no longer being met by the terms of the contract, and we were getting auditor scrutiny, we had no choice but to then put it on the next quarterly write-off report, which happened the same night as the audit. So that's why the timing happened the way it was.
Okay. So when I first brought this up, you and the mayor almost seemed to have no idea this was going on. Was that February? And all of a sudden now, it just seems to have happened very fast, where it was put off, put off, put off. I brought it up in February, brought it up in April. Not much seemed to happen, and now it's just all come to a head, which is unfortunate, I think.
Well, the council instructed the city manager to get together with the audit committee and come up with a set of policies for this kind of a situation. That was one of the things that came out of the last meeting. And I don't know if that meeting has taken place or happened yet.
That's the one tomorrow, correct?
Correct.
Okay, that's the primary reason for that meeting. Number two is that when this comes up before city council, something like that, and we've got a sitting councilwoman sitting on, and her name is on that list, it puts the city council in a very tough situation. And it puts us in a very tough situation. We very well could have said, write them off. And with this level of writing them off came a whole bunch of other things. Loss of a contract at the airport, no catering license, all those kind of things could have been part of that process. But the council said, look, until we can have this meeting with the audit committee and we can come up with a set of policies, then we need to table this. And the council did. The primary, and I think I can speak for every councilman that was here, the primary concern about the council is being perceived as giving somebody who's on the city council special treatment.
Mr. Mayor, I'm not questioning any of this, the process.
Mm-hmm.
I'm questioning the way I was treated and talked about. If you would go back and listen to it, you would find it utterly shameful. And it was very sad.
Well,
And if it's any consolation, the debt was paid in full today. But it doesn't excuse the behavior. Who are we when we treat people the way that we did? I wasn't there to defend myself. Ironically, it worked out pretty good because then you get to see some colors in people that maybe we need to rethink and revalue ourselves. We're a community here. We're a council taking care of a community. That did not represent taking care the tone that was put out there.
well, and I'm going to say also,
Please don't bother pushing back, Mr. Mayor. This is a non-issue.
Karen,
I just had something to say.
Because the council in their actions and in their discussions was defending the community. They were defending the community, and because we can't be perceived. Sitting up here, we're held to a higher standard. Administration is held to a higher standard. And if we allow something like this to go through, and all of a sudden the public's saying, well, where's mine? How come I can't do that? I owe tax money.
You're bringing up all the wrong points.
No,
it's
I'm
not
not
about that, allowing things to go through.
Yeah.
You're avoiding the issue.
No, I'm not avoiding
I
the
just
issue.
wanted to share some information.
Well, we appreciate you sharing the information. I disagree with some of your assertions, but we'll move on from here.
I was, for the record, I'm fighting. Well, I'll talk to John about this afterwards, but the procedure of how the events took place, that was my concern here.
Okay.
How let's
Dorothy.
move forward.
Dorothy.
Karen, I'm sorry that you feel the way you do, but I think this shows that there are lots of people out there and you never know what they really think until they go to the ballot box. I don't know what the April 4 letter was. If that's the one that you wrote to us, I missed those points. I was never at a meeting where 6 of the council members cited something and you weren't there.
Council members, I said audit committee.
And I only got onto the audit committee when you had to get off, and I don't run the audit committee. Chris is the chair.
I understand that, and you're missing the point.
I'm not
I don't
missing
even
the
care
point,
about
please.
what has happened. What I care more about is what you do from this point forward in your actions and how you treat other people with respect.
And you have taken control of the meeting and have interrupted my presentation. Learn how to not have the last word and control everything. I do not run the audit committee.
For the council.
Finished on this.
Okay. We're moving ahead with the city manager report.
I'm sorry?
Say?
Is there still public comment?
No, there isn't.
Yeah, we are.
On reports?
Huh?
On reports? On reports?
No, we're not on reports. We're on public business on the floor.
Yeah.
Different item.
Okay. Come, Mr. Prax.
Joe Prox. Karen, I think the public has been disrespected when you have an agreement with the public and don't follow through. And this has been, I heard about this when I was still on council. So more than a year ago, I tried to get a list of the lots of people that owe the city money. I heard about this. Oh, wonder who that is. I could never get that list. I was never given that list. The public has a right to know about the business of the city. I think we also have a right to know about business relations amongst council members and the city. Every time there was something in the budget, if they were buying clothes or whatever, I'd say, whoops, wait a minute, I get something out of that. Every time. I expect all of you to do that. That was the expectation. Now, there was more to this. There was trade going on to work off this debt. I can't send a box of socks to pay my bill to the city. That's special treatment, Karen. Pure and simple. It is. It is. If I was a competitor, then the city is subsidizing my competitor. That happens with a competitor I have. There's a competitor I have who has beat the city 10 ways from Sunday on different bills. That's subsidizing his business. I don't mind competition. South Central, compete with me all day, fair, no problems, it's all good. But not when they can write off other bills and still stay in business. That's how business works. And I don't think it's meanness. I don't think it's any of that. I'm surprised it got this far. It needs to be an open process. When I hear, well, we're going to take care of it, we'll take care of it internally. No. I take care of my family stuff, my business stuff internally, not public money. The debt is to the citizens. The citizens have the right to know. I'm very disturbed when you have told the city manager, you'll always have the city manager's back. I don't want that. Well, what kind of a relationship is going on then? Because the city manager cut you a deal. That's what happened. That's what happened. I'm not saying it happened together, but the city manager cut Karen Abel's council person a deal. It is. It's not hateful. It's truthful.
There's a city ordinance that said if anybody owes debt, they cannot be paid for anything, so that they take it off of their bill. I didn't create that rule, Joe.
No, but you are getting there. You're coming up with the procedure on how to handle this. There isn't a procedure. So it's a special deal to take care of this. There isn't a procedure.
I didn't ask for this, and I apologize, and I'm sorry that you feel that way, but I don't know what to tell you. And
It's us as public that you owe the money to. It's us as the public.
It's paid.
After much work.
There's a lot of hard work trying to survive as a business, and you know that. But
Yes,
hardly any
Paying
of
your
that
bills
bill
is
was
tough.
paid by
I do.
catering. I can tell you that. I can tell you, if you'd like a list of how much I've worked off on that, we can show that to you, Joe.